They're in the other dimension, Hunter said, holding up his phone, showing Gibson the text from Kai. We've got to go back. Hold on, Gibson said. Hunter had already bolted down the hallway towards the main roundhouse. Let's think about this. What's to think about? Hunter yelled over his shoulder. Those are our fellow agents out there, not to mention that one of them is my lover. Hunter heard the steps behind him come to an abrupt halt. He turned around in time to see Gibson try and fail to hide a hurt expression. Look, he tried to explain. I still need time to sort things out about you and me, and... I just meant, Gibson interrupted softly, that teleporting is extremely tiresome to the both of us. Maybe if we put our minds together, we can think of a way to transport ourselves that isn't as taxing to our minds and bodies. They continued walking down the hallway, entering the roundhouse where Mugen was putting a sheet over Atkins' body. Well, we don't have much time, Hunter said. What do you suggest we do? Mugen, he called out. Load us up with the rest of that Evermore, please. Mugen hustled to his backpack of supplies, detaching one of the side packs and emptying the contents, replacing them with the full bottle and Hunter's half bottle from earlier. He wrapped it around Hunter's waist, clasping the plastic buckle securely and tying it to Hunter's belt. There's a sensation I feel in the second or two before we transport, Gibson explained. I think that's the fabric of space or time, or something giving way for us. Hunter gave the theory a moment to set in. What are you suggesting? That there's an easier way to pass through dimensions? Something is allowing our cell phones to communicate with each other, Gibson pointed out. There's something ethereal allowing those signals to pass through dimensions so easily, so we can text and even video call. Perhaps we can move from world to world in the same way. We can't spend all day pursuing the scientific method, Hunter said. If you got an idea, try it. But if it fails, we have to teleport the way we've been doing. Fine. Gibson pulled Hunter close. He held both hands up at shoulder height. Put your hands here, he said. Hunter did as told. He felt a tingle race over his arms as he put his palms against Gibson's. He tried to ignore it. All right, let's think about our destination, like we've been doing. But when you feel the space shifting, don't try to force it. Let me see if there's an opening. They both concentrated. They pictured the things they remembered about the alternate reality they had dipped into several times before. The subtle differences that made that space unique compared to the one they occupied now. There was a sensation Hunter noticed, as if the air in the room lost all density. Was this the give Gibson was looking for? It came complete with a visual cue, like the gentle waves caused when a pebble is dropped in the water, only these waves were taking place vertically and across the air around the two of them. Gibson broke one of his hands away from Hunter's, and watching the waves pass by them, placed his forefinger in the valley between two of the wave's crests. It punctured the wave as if he was poking through a moistened tissue, revealing a visceral blue light. Scarcely able to believe his theory might be holding weight, he dragged his finger down the seam that seemed to be hanging in the air. And like unzipping an overcoat, the wave peeled back, revealing more light. Hunter, as well as Mugen, who was standing on the other side of the pair, stared into the ether in astonishment. Gibson continued pulling his pointer finger down the slit in space he was creating until he hit the floor. Grinning, he held his hands toward the opening. After you? Hunter, pleased though he was this idea was coming through, hesitated. Who knew what was really on the other side of this blue light? It was your idea, he said. You first. How about you? Gibson craned his neck to speak with Mugen. Mugen, while entranced by the show going on in front of him, blanched. I should really look after Saunders. The convulsions stopped, and he's picking up a bit. But he needs a close watch. Very well, Gibson said, already halfway inside the spatial rip. See you when we see you. As if stepping out of a shower, even holding the tear in the fabric of space like it were a curtain, Gibson took a labored step forward, then held the curtain open for Hunter to emerge. They stepped clear of the rip, and the gap seemed to seal itself, leaving them to examine where they were. The roundhouse walls, tinged with blue light, the cages and their captives, save for one, of course, the giant water tank. They were back in the alternate realm, all right. Infused with elation from the success of their whim, Hunter and Gibson high-fived and moved in for an embrace, only to stop when they realized in what poor taste the moment would have been. They didn't have a chance to reflect on the feeling. The piercing sound of Gray's scream made them race down the corridor and making their way to the auxiliary room. The first thing Hunter noticed was this room's door wasn't fused shut. It was closed, but it wasn't sealed, and it wouldn't stay closed for much longer. Hunter grabbed the door handle and yanked the door off its hinges, tossing it aside like it was nothing. Inside, he saw a room less than half its original size. The ceiling already beginning to close over the entryway. A mass of metallic shelves were crimping together like aluminum cans going through a crusher. All the chairs in the room were tossed towards the door. Gray was cowering in fear, laying in the fetal position. Kai was braced in an X position, his feet clamped to the ground, his arms quaking as he held the ceiling in place. It was obvious he was losing the strength to prevent the room from collapsing in on itself any further. Morse was nowhere to be seen. "Hunter," Kai groaned. Diving through the jungle of twisted metal and furniture legs, Hunter wedged himself into the room. "Gibson, can you go back the way you came?" "I don't think so," Gibson called back. "I think it still requires both our power." "Then you're gonna have to get in here and join the party," Hunter cried. "Make it snappy." Gibson crawled through the obstacles. As Hunter put an arm around Kai's waist, he held out an arm for Gibson, who took the offering and made sure he was holding onto Gray's hand in return. They could all feel the vibration as the mechanized roof angrily demanded to continue on its path, impeded by Kai's physical blockade. "On 3, Hunter yelled. 1, 2. He and Gibson closed their eyes tight and began to picture the room they left Mugen and Saunders in. 3! There was a massive flash of light, and a split second after they disappeared, the ceiling smashed down, pulverizing the remaining material left inside flat.